It's a busy day diplomatically for U.S. President Donald Trump. He met separately with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Both leaders are dealing with wars and eroding domestic support. Staying in Trump's good graces is a priority. Journalist Nick Harper has the details from the U.S. Capitol.
Well, Andrew, this meeting was all about really trying to shore up US support for Ukraine. He came here to the US Capitol saying that his number one priority was getting more interceptor missiles. Specifically, the US-made Patriot interceptor missiles. He posted after the meeting saying that it had been a good meeting, also saying that they had discussed those Patriot interceptor missiles a few weeks back at the NATO summit in Ankara, Turkey. The US leader and the Ukrainian leader spoke about those interceptor missiles. Donald Trump saying that he would grant Ukraine licenses to produce their own Patriot interceptor missiles. That was discussed at this meeting. President Zelenskyy confirming that they had spoken about the production of those and also, in his words, several other ideas that could help Ukraine. But he also wrote on social media that he wants to return to diplomacy, trying to get the US more involved in those mediation efforts between the US and Russia. That's something that's really gone cold in recent months, really as a result of the war with Iran. President Zelenskyy in that post on social media saying that it was time to reinvigorate that diplomatic process. And it's something I imagine the two leaders spoke about during that closed-door meeting in the Oval Office.
And Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also sat down with Trump. How are his relations with the U.S. now?
Yeah, it's interesting, Andrew, because we've seen a real switch in relations between these two leaders with the US president. If we think about it back about a year and a half ago, the US president was at odds with the Ukrainian leader. They had that bust-up in the Oval Office, a very acrimonious public shouting match. And we have seen warm relations over the last few months between President Trump and President Zelenskyy. But on the flip side, his relationship with the Prime Minister of Israel has deteriorated. There's been reports of shouting matches on phone calls between those two leaders. And in the last day, the US president, appearing on Fox News, showed his displeasure at Benjamin Netanyahu. They have had frayed relations. Interesting to note, this is the first meeting face-to-face between the two men since the start of the Iran conflict at the end of February. And we have been hearing that the Israeli leader really has been urging the US president to continue military action against Iran and to ramp it up and to widen it. But the Trump administration has been advising the US president really now is the time to continue that pause. Even the Vice President, J.D. Vance, has been warning Donald Trump that the missile stockpiles that the United States has is significantly depleted. And really now is the time for diplomacy as opposed to military action. And I think that will be why Benjamin Netanyahu perhaps has got a frosty relationship and reception at the White House from Donald Trump.
Journalist Nick Harper in Washington.